everyone, I'm Alicia Esposito, and I'm here today with Nikki Baird, the VP of Innovation at Aptos. Nikki, thanks so much for taking the time out.
Thanks for having me.
So it's a very exciting time, the most exciting time of the year, NRF, and you guys have had a very eventful year as a business, going to market with this theme, Built for Change, this concept that retailers need to rethink not only the way they collaborate internally, but their processes, their technology, so they can create more immersive and relevant customer experiences that delight their shoppers.
Absolutely.
Very aspirational and inspirational, but also when it comes time to actually do it, probably a little daunting and scary. But to start off our conversation, I mean, how has the industry responded to this concept of being built for change? And what kinds of conversations are you having?
Yeah, I would say very positive has been the response. And the conversations have been interesting because there's no time available to just start over, right? Like everybody would love to start with a clean slate, take all their legacy and shove it out of the way and then start fresh and new, and nobody can do that. Right. And so the conversations we've been having have been more focused on, I need to do innovative things now, but I need to do it in a way that gets me to where I am an enterprise built for change, and over time kind of takes away the legacy and replaces it with the modern architecture that will let me keep up with the customer as they change and everything's dynamic and hard to keep up with. So that sort of parallel track, it's like, I can't just start over, I don't want to just replace point of sale, I want to have a differentiating experience in my store, help me do that, but while you're doing it, replace the pieces underneath that are holding me back.
Okay, so almost taking a more phased, strategic approach to innovation rather than topple it over.
Yeah, but not starting over, right? It's like, you can't rip and replace. So I need to do cool things that pay off for the company, but I need to do them on the modern architecture that will become that architecture for everything else over time. So normally people feel like they have to replace the foundation first, right? I got to replace my basic point of sale and then I can do cool things. And it's like, no, I got no time for that. That works. Give me something that helps solve these really hard problems that customers have, but then lets me over time erode this other stuff away. So
Got it. And then what does that modern architecture look like after they go through that step-by-step approach? I mean, what's the ideal scenario, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot on the technology side about microservices. So these very, very small components that you can reuse over and over again. So the price and promotion engine that provides the prices in the store, well, that's a separate engine than what provides prices for online, which it might even be a separate engine than what provides prices for what a consumer sees on a mobile device, like on their phone in the app. So being able to say, no, it's one common engine for all of that. So one way that they get to that future is they say, well, I'm going to put in that pricing engine in my store because that solves a problem that I have right now. But then over time, I'm going to start taking my e-commerce and I'm going to point it to that price engine, and I'm going to take the mobile device and I'm going to start pointing it to that price engine, and that's how you replace that other stuff behind the scenes.
Got it. So it seems like that the tech portion of the conversation is addressed, and there are some productive conversations there. How do you handle any challenges or pain points around the cultural elements?
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it too, actually, especially because most of the places where retailers are focused is in stores, right? So it's a store employee, it's the consumer that they're dealing with, changing that process for. And for employees, it has been an interesting conversation because we're delivering new features and functions every 2 weeks, right? It's modern architecture means sprint cycle, microservices means agile delivery methods. And stores can't take that much change, right? There's only so much that they can take every 2 weeks. So we have been working with some of our customers who have been kind of going down this road. They'll accumulate some of those changes and then they'll release them like monthly instead of trying to do it every 2 weeks. But they're getting stores into this cadence of expecting to be able to actually get new capabilities, be able to do new things every couple of months,
right,
and taking that to their customers. And it changes the dynamic. Like, it gets the stores much more excited because it's not the old school implementation was I showed up, it was very intense, we had to retrain everybody, and then I went away and I'm not coming back for 2 years, right? You have to deal with whatever I left you for 2 years before I'm going to come back around. And now they're finding, but if there's a problem, then it's like, yeah, put it on the list, right? And now it's like, no, this isn't working. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll fix that the next time around. That's in a month.
Right.
It's a very different environment.
Yeah, and this morning in the keynote, Kevin Johnson, the CEO of Starbucks, talked about how speed can either be an enabler of innovation or an inhibitor of innovation. And it seems like they were trying to figure out ways like processes, internally, more agile frameworks, how they kind of go through the idea creation to the testing, like figuring out what works for them. And I guess it does kind of vary depending on the business.
When you're faster, you get many more input cycles. So the capability comes now, the focus is not just on making change stick from a change management perspective, but actually incorporating the feedback, because you have the opportunity for feedback, so you can turn that around more cycles. So yeah, I get it. It's like, if there's not enough time to bring that feedback back in, then it's like, why are you even asking for my feedback? But if you pace it to the pace that the business can handle, then you have the opportunity to do a lot more, because now you really are getting real feedback from people.
And he brought up, of course, some of the work that you've been doing with customers, the type of response thus far. I love that the Aptos booth always includes those real life use cases, because with all of this tech, it's like, okay, great, but what are the use cases? Yes. So why don't you share a little bit about the customers that you're showcasing and what their backstory is?
Yeah. We have 4 experiences in our booth. So the first one is Vitamin Shoppe, and what they're doing is they have our Optus One store solution. So they are selling on an iPad mini. So they're seamlessly operating either online or offline, depending on the kind of network access that they can get. But from the consumer's perspective, the show attendees' perspective, there's no difference. So it operates as if it was 100% online, whether it's getting a signal or not. Now, they're planning on using Optus One to support the partnership that they have with LA Fitness. So they will have Vitamin Shoppe sort of pop-up stores in LA Fitness gyms.
Okay.
And for a retailer to support a store location, normally you're provisioning a server and you've got a bunch of hardware. They're just bringing these iPad minis and these payment devices on a sled, one sort of holistic device, and they're ready to go. They don't need to do any of that setup. So it gives them a lot more flexibility. They're also looking to take it to like marathons and bodybuilding competitions and all of that kind of stuff. So it gives them a lot more flexibility in terms of where they can take it. And they're also planning on using it for some of their new concept stores that they'll be launching this year, where they want more of that side-by-side experience with customers who come in the store, so they can provide more advice and support more lifestyle goals rather than just focusing on selling product. So the other location that we have is Haan, is selling shoes. So Vitamin Shoppe has NRF survival food, so energy bars, energy drinks, protein bars, electrolyte replacement kind of thing. Haan has the shoes for your feet. So after spending even one day on your feet all day, you're ready for some comfy shoes. That's what Haan has. They are selling also with Aptos One, but it's integrated to our order management system. So what they're doing with that is they are taking orders here, fulfilling them out of their Soho store in New York, and they will deliver same day to your hotel room. So you don't have to take them with you.
Yeah, I love it.
You try them on, you order your size, and then it will be at your hotel room when you get home that night. The third experience is actually a little bit different. It's not a customer-facing experience, but it is enabling the retailer to do some very innovative things. So Urban Outfitters uses our planning solutions to plan inventory, so assortment and inventory. And they just 6 months ago launched Newly, which is a rental service.
Right.
So they use our solution to plan across all of their brands, including Newly.
Because different rules, right?
A whole different business model.
Yeah.
Took them 30 days to get that up and running. So when I heard it, I was like, wait, what? Are you serious? But yes, they actually did that. It's a fantastic story. We're really excited to be able to help them launch a whole new business model for them. So that's great.
That's great.
The last experience is customer experience. So that's back to Aptos One. And that's really focusing on just all of the different ways. Like we're just trying to get people to understand one microservice, multiple different uses for that microservice. So we have mobile selling, very similar to what Vitamin Shoppe is doing. It actually is demonstrating our support of the UK country, which is hard. It's hard to go international. We're planning on covering dozens of countries by the end of this year. So that's an important step forward for us. And then we also have self-checkout, so a consumer-facing experience that with a push of a button, you can turn it into an employee-facing experience, all the exact same microservices that enable those experiences. So we had hats and gloves and little Olafs, like you could take home to your kids. That was the third part of the NRF survival story, but there was a run on those and they're all gone at this point.
Sure. Very different use cases, very different brands.
Yes.
But if there was kind of an overarching story or, a nugget or two of wisdom that maybe, our viewers today can kind of take from these examples, are there any?
Absolutely, very different brands, right? I mean, that's consumer packaged goods basically, and then you've got very expensive lifestyle shoes, but they both are focused on the customer experience and trying to match what they offer. It's not about selling stuff, it's about enabling that customer in achieving whatever their goal is, whether it's health or fashion or comfort or whatever it is. I think that theme is universal. The experience, customer experience is just as important as ever, if not more so. Like we've kind of solved the experience or the convenience. We've solved the convenience problem, but now we got to back up. It's like, yes, when you want to pay, I want to make that as seamless and quick and painless as possible. But I want, when I come into the store, there's got to be a reason for me to come into the store. And I think we're seeing retailers invest a lot in giving consumers that reason.
So to close off our conversation, Nikki, we hit on a lot of really important trends, I think themes for our retail viewers out there. But we're in a new decade, and with a new decade comes a reflection of what happened, almost a recap on trends and predictions that we had from the decade prior. So would love your take on, what ultimately ended up being a fad, something that got a lot of buzz, but maybe didn't really go anywhere. And, maybe a trend or two that you weren't expecting to flourish as it did. I mean, you could kind of go wherever you want with that.
So, I've had the opportunity to actually do a review of at least the first half of the last decade. You kind of feel like the last 5 years are close enough, but when you go back to 2010 to 2015 and you start, when you go back to 2010 to 2015 and you start looking at the, what were the things that I wrote about, what were the things that I cared about, like geofencing,
right.
Geofencing, let's see, in-store location and customer tracking, footpath tracking through the stores. So the first one, geo-targeting. Do you hear anything about geo-targeting these days? You hear nothing about that, right? So that was one that it was like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. Beacons, remember beacons?
Right.
I know, it's like, nope, those are
They pop up
done.
every once in a while, but
Yeah,
no
but
clear ROI.
they're done.
Yeah.
In-store tracking, especially the computer vision kind of in-store tracking, it's been around for a long time. I mean, literally almost a decade now. And when you go to the innovation zone at NRF, it is chock full of companies that are addressing exactly that problem. And that actually surprised me that it was one of those things that I thought would be done in the last decade, that it turns out might actually be the biggest thing of this decade. And I think part of it is improvement in the algorithms and the computing power and all of that stuff. But I also think there's more maturity on the part of the retailers in terms of what they can do with that data. So I think, there are definitely some things that have happened in the last decade that we all thought were going to change the world and didn't. They might actually change the world in this decade, so we'll see.
Interesting. So with that, any other words of wisdom or inspiration even, because it's a new year, so many exciting conversations happening right now?
I have to say, so I mentioned some of our customers who are opening concept stores or investing in new experiences. I think 2020 is going to see a lot of that. I think there are a lot of retailers that are planning next generation retail experiences that will test those in stores in 2020. with the intent of remaking their entire chain in that image. So that is a very exciting thing.
Well, Nikki, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. You're always into the latest trends and also having so many great conversations with brands. So thank you for always giving us the scoop.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thanks everyone out there for watching.